Hello guys, Yusaku here, and today we're going to be talking about Yugioh Everything episode 13. Now, generally speaking, this episode was more or less one of those summary type of episodes we have a tendency to get in Yu-Gi-Oh! After they make a lot of major plot drops. So with that being the case, there's not a ton to discuss, though I'll make sure to cover any ideas that run through my head and those types of things. And as always, be sure to let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments section down below. So let's go ahead and jump right into things here. Basically, it was presented in the format of, we have our Bird and Toad reporter giving Emma a ton of money, even mentioning how they gave her money from bonus salaries that they haven't even gotten yet, and then she handed over this interview about her talking about her experiences with Playmaker in the last couple of episodes, or during his duel with Revolver, for talking in relation to the show timeline. So with that being the case, they were super excited, they go to analyze it, they think, oh man, we got this big scoop on the most popular guy in Vrains right now, basically the biggest celebrity in our world, and with that, it's exclusive, we'll make all of our money back easily, all is well, and then basically we go into watching Emma's interview as she's talking about her experiences with Playmaker. We're getting these flashbacks to her previous episodes, and that's basically a synopsis of what goes on here. The funny part, it comes at the end. I thought this was actually one of the best examples of humor they've done in Vrains. These guys gave all of their money, they sit there watching the interview, and then Yusaku is sitting there hacking and taking out anything that has to do with his Playmaker stuff on the internet, hacks, shuts them all down, each of the videos disappear from their screens one by one, deleted or data not found, something like that, and then they're basically like, oh crap, there goes our scoop and our salaries. I thought it was a well done joke, but okay, let's go ahead and move on into what we did get from this episode plot-wise, and not just a little bit of humor at the end. So our first bit of character development and those types of things to talk about actually comes before the intro even starts in this episode, which is funny considering this episode had very little to do with that type of stuff on the whole. But anyway, basically it's Emma approaches Kusanagi's hot dog stand, orders 2 chili dogs, yeah, there's a little innuendo there for those of you that are shipping them, and then she makes on her merry way after making a brief conversation about Link Vrains. So with that being the case, there's a little bit more shipping fodar because, I mean, there was some clever dialogue in there if you want to spin it to being that, as I mentioned about the chili dogs, and they are talking and those types of things. Kusanagi seems mildly interested in her afterwards, and she's clearly interested in Kusanagi, even though she doesn't know it's Kusanagi she's interested in. She just knows him as the hacker that helps Playmaker, and she doesn't know that's him yet, or at least we don't think she knows that's him yet. It's always possible she's withholding that information when she does the interview for Bird and Frog Dude. But yeah, that's an interesting exchange of dialogue. It's kind of brief, though, not a lot to get out of it. And so moving on from that, we have a brief scene between AI and Roboppy, which is Yusaku's maid robot type of thing. I'm guessing she's supposed to be sort of a maid. If it is indeed a she, I'm pretty sure it is. And basically, we've got Ai showing off to her, doing the ripped muscles type of thing that he did at the end of episode 12, which is still kind of funny and how ironic it is, given how he's smaller than the size of a water bottle. But anyway, running with that, she seems impressed. They're flirting as much as 2 robots can. And then basically he's saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna make you smarter as soon as I finish getting my program back. So I'm curious based off that to see where Ai plans to go once he gets all of his programming back. Are we looking at a scenario similar to iRobot here, where the robots end up taking over and attacking the humans and those types of things? And if it is intending to go towards that path, like Vrains as a show is intending to go towards that path, we got a little bit of foreshadowing towards that in Kusanagi and Yusaku's dialogue right after the conversation with Emma as well, where Yusaku's expressing some concern over the fact that Ai has free will, and he's like, well, what's he gonna do with it? And Kusanagi's like, oh, I'm sure you'll be fine, basically. But it's very heavily hinted that Yusaku has concern that AI might have negative intentions once he gets his full programming back, because essentially he's missing his memory like Yusaku is, so he's missing a part of himself. And as we saw with the Barry and Onslaught arc in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, regaining one's memory can quickly shift who you are. So yeah, he's on good terms with Yusaku and Kusanagi right now, but if suddenly he gets all of his data back and realizes, oh crap, my objectives totally contradict what I've been doing with these two, it's very possible he's going to shift sides, and I could end up being a future enemy, possibly way down the road, possibly towards the end of our first major arc. We don't know. It's certainly possible. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly didn't see Shark being like, the semi-final antagonist coming, you could make a case for it being Don Thousand, but nonetheless, I didn't see Shark being, like, a major enemy of Yuma coming in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. I didn't see that coming ahead of time. And there was light foreshadowing from what I've heard, particularly in, like, the openings and endings and those types of things. We don't have any of that here, but there is a little bit in the dialogue, so I'm just wondering if AI's suddenly going to be against Yusaku. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. So moving on from that, this episode does do one thing really well, and that's reinforce who Emma's character is supposed to be, in the writer's eyes at least. Given, however, the past couple of episodes, at least the impression I've been getting is she's been softening up a little bit towards Akira and Playmaker specifically. She seems to have gained some respect for Playmaker, having referred to him as being cool and everything else on several occasions now. And then in terms of Akira, she was very helpful during the whole incident with Aoi, and she sent him the limo to get to Aoi and check on her right after the duel with Revolver. Now, one could definitely make a case those were all for selfish reasons. She was keeping an eye on Playmaker just because she was really curious about him, and was after her own information that she could then sell out, as she did in this episode. And then in terms of Akira, she is getting paid by him, so she wants to be able to keep a reputable job and be able to keep getting, references to work for other people. If she's got a good reputation, she'll keep reeling in money. So you could make a case that that was all selfish, but just the way she was coming across to me, it seemed she was softening up. But she really couldn't have been if she just went and sold out everything she knew about Playmaker when it's clear he's trying to keep his identity concealed. Now, it's also possible part of her has begun to depict who he is, and she's just not saying anything. But still, I mean, that's highly unlikely given how I don't think she's ever actually met Yusaku, at least until this episode she hadn't. So it's definitely seeming like Emma, yeah, she's still a very hard-edged type of person. She hasn't developed as rapidly as Mai Valentine, in the sense that right after Mai sent Rex to duel Joey, she seemed to be softening up some from that point forward. She shared a campfire with Yugi, Joey, and Taya and Tristan, and she seemed to be more and more considering them friends. There was a little bit of that hard-edgeness still during the Duelist Kingdom arc, but it was lightening up a lot by the time, right after that Rex Raptor duel, which I guess was right around this point, so maybe after Emma duels Yusaku, then she's going to start softening up. It's hard to say, and I'm not going to, say this is a perfect comparison between the two characters, but I do see a lot of similarities. Now, moving forward, that brings us into our preview for the next episode. The preview starts off with a man in a, white long coat and purple and black hair, basically yelling at a bunch of people with computer screens. Now, based off the cast list that we got for episode 14, I would assume this is the Kitamura character, who is also the same guy who was referenced as getting a promotion from the chess pieces in episode 12 once they mentioned they were going to fire Akira. So this is probably Kitamura yelling at a bunch of people from Soltech to keep working on finding stuff about Playmaker so they can get stuff on AI. So it's going to be interesting to see how his character interacts with everybody else. I'm also kind of surprised that he didn't, his hiring scene didn't appear on screen, and it doesn't seem it's going to, given how the chess pieces are not mentioned in the cast list for episode 14. Maybe some information's given there that they're going to show it to us in a later point, so that way they can keep some stuff concealed if there is information given to him at that point. Hard to say. Then this brings us into a brief clip with Akira working at what seems to be a desk with a bunch of screens pulled up with charts and stuff behind him. It almost seems like what could have been his office at Soltech, so I'm wondering if this is when he's leaving for the last time after he got fired. But what's even more interesting is there's a girl blushing as he leaves in this scene from wherever it is that he's leaving, and she seems to coincide perfectly with the other new name aside from Kitamura that we had in the episode 14 cast list analysis, being a character named Hayami. And I looked up the voice actor associated with Hayami, and it is indeed a female, so I'm going to assume this is probably Hayami. Now, the question then becomes, what role is she playing? Part of me is really wondering if she's going to play a role similar to Felicity Smoke from Arrow when that show was initially starting, if anyone's watched that. Sorry, cross-referencing nerdy shows here. But basically, the role then would be, if Akira is indeed leaving Soltech in this scene, Hayami was his secretary of some sort, and when he ends up leaving, if he is joining up with, say, Yusaku and working against Soul Technologies, she's going to act as an in for them, to keep them informed with what's going on in Soltech from the inside. because there's a pretty good chance she might still have her job. Heck, she could even be the secretary to Kitamura, at which rate she would have a pretty darn good idea of what's going on compared to working for anybody else within Soltech, because Kitamura, although being the pawn to the chess pieces, at least from what we're picking up from their conversation about hiring him, would still be higher up than your average peon at Soltech. So she could definitely be like an in to inform Yusaku and them of what's going on, at which rate then she would play a major role in the show. She does seem to like Akira given how she was blushing, and if that's the case, I don't see why she wouldn't be willing to help him if he indeed needs it. So I'm excited to see another female character that might have a pretty good role in this show. It seems like maybe, I don't want to speak too soon, Yugioh is learning from their past mistakes in terms of writing female characters, and maybe listening to their fans in terms of our complaints about them generally butchering it. So that's just exciting. It's just downright exciting. Next, we are given a little clip of Emma just chilling on a couch, probably in her house, and it's talking about how cyber treasure hunters are people who explore and like pioneer within like Vrains, going to the outskirts and those types of things, going on hunts for information, making money, basically what we've seen Emma do so far. So we find out that she is not alone by any means, and this is probably a fairly popular practice if it's gotten its own term. And the final little clip we got from the next episode is that Yusaku accepts an invitation from her to duel. So with all that being said, that about concludes my thoughts for this episode, guys. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If not, constructive criticism is always welcome, and as always, have a nice day.